Welcome back to Paranormal Tedium, and yet more breakdown goodness in the shape of Rich's Complete and Utter Breakdown, a series where, here at the large facility, I check out the gear used by ghost hunters in their efforts to capture evidence of any ghostly presence and other supernatural shenanigans and try to determine if they're any use whatsoever. Bring on the title sequence. What better way to bring out a spirit's inner disco groove than by introducing a laser show into investigation proceedings? Laser pens are used with a diffuser cap on the end to produce patterns on a surface, usually a wall, with which your intrepid ghost hunter hopes will provide proof of a supernatural presence. Yeah, don't piss about with laser pointers. It's not like what your mum or dad says about masturbation. You can go blind. Oh, and thanks to a certain demographic of the populace, these buggers are going to become harder to get hold of. You know who you are, you disruptive little twats. I'm not going to get into the technical workings of lasers. We all know what lasers are and what they're used for. And also what the word laser stands for. What we are going to look at in this episode is how laser grids are used in ghost hunts and whether they actually provide any proof of entities from the other side. Let me set the scene. You're in a supposedly haunted location. It's dark, because ghost hunting, obviously. Your camera's rolling and the laser grid's lighting up a wall in the room. All you got to do now is wait. Before long, there's a subtle yet noticeable shift in the matrix. Whoa. Is it? Is it really? Could it possibly be a ghost? No. No, it's most probably not. There are numerous explanations for what's creating these anomalies, and ones that don't involve entities from the netherworld. But before we take a look, how about leaving a thumbs up for this vid? If you do it now, you won't have to remember right at the end. Also, please consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell icon. Thanks. You see, the thing that pretty much all ghost hunters completely forget about when they're in the middle of an investigation, or just simply choose to ignore, is the fact that we don't live in a vacuum. The Earth is surrounded by an atmosphere, and one that's in a constant state of flux. We feel it as a breeze across our faces, hear it as the rushing of the wind, and see it as a shimmering mirage on a hot day or as the twinkling of the stars on a clear night. All of these effects are caused by different gases at different temperatures and pressures, creating different densities of air that swirl around us at every moment of every day and night. The gentlest of air movements easily pick up tiny motes of dust, just walking around, and the very act of breathing creates eddies in the air which perturbs the dust that's floating about even more. As the old chaos theory adage goes, Zn plus 1 equals Zn squared plus C. No, wait, not that one. Oh yeah, if the butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, you get rain in Cardiff instead of sun. Thinking about it, Cardiff's the wettest city in the UK, so that's probably not a great example. Bollocks. Anyway, all of this is fine, but how does it actually relate to the use of laser grids in supposedly haunted locations? Well, there's a lot of factors to consider, so let's break them down a bit at a time. We'll start with an easy one. Dust. Let's face it, dust and other particulate matter is all around us in the day-to-day world. I know there's going to be some smart arse saying,
but what about hermetically sealed rooms?
And to that my retort would be, how many twatting ghost hunt vids have you seen performed in hermetically sealed rooms? Dickhead. I'd say there's a couple of ways that dust would interact with laser light: obscuring and reflecting. Isn't that a Dream Theater album? The latter is the quickest one to explain, so we'll start there. Simply put, pretty much everything that isn't a source of light reflects light. Otherwise, you wouldn't fucking see anything.
But what about black holes?
I said pretty much everything. Stop being a twat. Logically, it follows that individual dust particles reflect light to a lesser or greater degree. And with laser light being so intense, it only takes one particle to float into any of the beams of light for it to potentially reflect that light straight back at the camera. Of course, that's an extreme case, and it does depend upon the orientation of any particle as it floats through the beam. So it's not a light anomaly, or a spirit trying to manifest. Sorry. Right, on to obscuring. Household dust particles are small, and range in size from 0.05 micron to 100 micron. depending on which articles you read. By way of comparison, a single human blood cell is 7 to 8 micron in size. So how could a particle that small possibly obscure laser light? There are two factors we need to consider. One, how small the diameter of the diffracted laser beams are at source, and two, how close the dust particles are to the laser source. As I don't have access to a microscope and precise measuring equipment, I'll estimate the rough size of a single diffracted beam as it leaves the pen, and make an assumption. That assumption being that the total spread of the diffracted beams at source is the same diameter as the single beam without the diffraction tip, a diameter of approximately 3 mm. The total diameter of the divergent beams against the wall is 1,653 mm when the pen is 1.8 meters away from the wall. Divide this measurement by the 3 mm approximate total width of the diffracted beams at source, you get a factor of 551. The diameter of the largest diffracted beam against the wall is 3 mm. If you divide this by the factor we got earlier, the result is 0.0054 mm or 5.4 micron. This value easily falls within the previously mentioned 0.05 to 100 micron size range for dust particles. Therefore, it's not beyond the realms of possibility for dust particles of this size or greater to completely obscure a single beam, or small cluster, of diffracted laser light. Either that, or depending on how close the dust is to the source, it may instead perceptibly lower the beam intensity, making it look like some ghostly interaction, when in actual fact, it isn't. Okay, that's dust taken care of, let's discuss shadows. We've shown how dust can potentially block the light to a single beam or small cluster of diffracted laser light, but what about blocking light to a larger area? The problem with the majority of vids that I've seen on YouTube that involve shadows in laser grids, apart from the typical poor vid quality due to low resolution and/or frame rate, is that you have absolutely no idea of the laser pen's position relative to the camera. More often than not, the laser pen is positioned outside the field of view of the camera lens. Therefore, anything that passes in front of the laser pen, yet still falls outside the camera's field of view, will cast a shadow. But the source of that shadow won't show up on the vid. Be it a bug, a finger, or what appears to be a fucking bouncing ball. On the one occasion where I have seen the laser pen positioned within the camera's field of view, that in itself presents further issue. Anything that passes in front of the camera, yet behind the laser pen, will also appear to be a shadow. The same vid proves my point nicely later on.
I'm going to put my hand in front of the camera, right over here.
Which brings me on to my second point about shadows in laser grids, depth perception. As these vids are typically in extremely low light or complete pitch black, except for the laser light, there's absolutely no way to determine the exact point in space where the object is that's making the shadow. Going back to that last clip, was that a regular sized hand close to the camera, or was it a gigantic demonic hand reaching out from the beyond, ready to pluck the soul from any unsuspecting ghost hunter? Common sense, if there's truly any left in the world, and context should help you come to the correct logical conclusion. But in 99.9% of the vids that I've seen, there is no context. So how the fuck are you going to know? People in the same twatting room aren't even going to know, because of the darkness. Which brings us finally to shimmers. The only reason that laser light is going to shimmer is that a volume of air which is at a different density to the surrounding air moves through the laser light, thus causing that light to refract at a slightly different angle through said volume. The question is, what causes air to have a different density? The answer to that is temperature. Warmer air is less dense than cooler air. That's why warmer air rises. But that change in density, however subtle, is enough to change the refractive index of that air. The term refractive index refers to how a ray of light bends when passing from one medium into another, in this case, from one density of air into another. The University Corporation for Atmospheric Research website states that air at different temperatures with different index of refraction within our atmosphere moves around so the path of, in this instance, reflected laser light to our eyes shifts slightly from moment to moment. Okay, so what in a haunted location could possibly cause these varying temperature differences? Oh, I don't know, maybe a shit ton of ghost hunting equipment and the ghost hunters themselves? As Morpheus says, the human body gives off more than 25,000 BTUs of body heat. Or the very location they're in giving off heat as it cools down from the day's sun or internal heating system. even in an outdoor location. A graveyard, for example. The gravestones, any nearby plants or trees, nocturnal animals, and the very earth itself will radiate heat until it becomes the same ambient temperature as the surrounding air. So in situations like these, how the fuck would you differentiate between natural phenomena and the supernatural? You can't. It's all left to the interpretation of the so-called investigators. Like I've said before, the people making these vids at the very worst never bother to eliminate any mundane possibilities. And even at the very best, never eliminate all mundane possibilities before they go jump into the supernatural for an explanation. Either that, or they're just out and out faking it. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. And we're done. Blimey, how can so much time be spent on something so small? As I've oft said to the ladies. As always, if you like this vid, then please give it a thumbs up. Because when you do, it gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. Also, remember to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. That way, you'll know whenever we upload more content. Thanks for watching.
Hey, my name's Rich. I'm a paranormal investigator. I make videos for YouTube. Thinks he's so smart.